Hey, what's up, nerds? How you doing today? I'm Alan, and this is Leo, and today we're here to talk about how I got scammed out of $250 for Pokemon cards. So, if this video is helpful to any of you out there, or if you just feel sorry for me, and I don't blame you if you don't, please both like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to this channel. For future content, we usually do openings, but today it was a little bit more of a special case, so I wanted to make a quick video about it. Sorry, by the way, for not uploading a video in such a long time. I know it's been a few weeks. Literally everything from last year that we were supposed to do caught up to us in this past couple of weeks. So we had weddings, we had vacations, we had pet sitting, all that kind of happened like back to back to back. So the goal of this video is to not only tell my story about what happened, but also how to avoid these things, how to see these red flags a little bit earlier. So hopefully you guys don't make the same mistakes that I do. So the start of my story goes like this. I was hanging out with my friend and I saw on Facebook Marketplace that there was a brand new listing for the big three in the base set Unlimited. So base set Charizard, base set Blastoise, and base set Venusaur. I saw that the listing was for $275, I believe. So I thought this was actually a pretty good deal because base set Charizard in near mint condition by itself goes for around that price, anywhere from about $200 to $300. So the fact that this guy was throwing in a Blastoise and a Venusaur felt like a really good deal for me. So the next step was for me to message the seller. So I messaged him asking if $275 is the lowest that he would go. And he told me that he would actually match the offer that he gave to someone else earlier, which was $250. So $275 was already a good price, and $250 seemed really, really good to me. So of course I told him that I was definitely interested and would be able to pay him the $250 for those three cards, pending, I think, pictures of the backs of the cards so I can really see the condition of the back of those too. After he sent the pictures to me and I confirmed that they were in a near mint, maybe like lightly played kind of like status, I told him that I would make the deal, and he told me that that was all good to go. So I sent him an offer through the Facebook Marketplace listing of $250, to which he accepted. We talked about the payment a little bit. I asked him if he would do PayPal gifts and services because I'm protected that way. He told me that he didn't necessarily want to do it that way, but that I could pay through PayPal through the Facebook Marketplace pay system. Which is already kind of like a red flag, so I decided to do a little bit of digging. So I started looking him up in some of these Facebook groups. There are a few different ones that you can actually join and become a part of to help avoid scams and stuff like that. So I was already a part of a couple of them, so I started looking through these old Facebook groups to see any feedback for this seller, to see if he had any positive feedback, any negative feedback, as both a buyer, seller, anything like that. And what I found was pretty overwhelmingly positive. So there was maybe 3 or 4 positive buyers of his that gave him positive reviews, and he as a buyer himself was also giving positive reviews. These were back in about 2019-ish, maybe early 2020-ish, and he was a pretty open and he's a pretty avid commenter and user of Facebook, and he was constantly trying to get feedback from people and stuff like that. So he seemed like a good guy. I saw on one of his comments that he posted too about why he didn't want to take PayPal goods and services, because he's been, I guess, scammed out of the past before when someone would charge back after he sold them something, and so he would lose the money and the cards then. So it kind of added up to me about why he would do something like that. Still a little sketchy, but according to these feedback posts and his comments and everything like that, it lined up enough for me to be okay to make the deal without PayPal gifts and services. So I went ahead and he actually sent me a request to pay the $250. I accepted and sent the money in through that way. So everything's now paid for. All that's left is shipping. So when I bought this, it was on a Friday, and he told me that he would not be able to ship out until Monday, which makes sense. I mean, if he's working Saturday, you won't be able to ship anything out until Monday anyway. So I was all good for that. So I told him we'll reach back to him on Monday and make sure that we get the tracking number. So Monday came and Monday went, and I hadn't gotten any info. So I think either late Monday or early Tuesday, I messaged him again, asking, if he had gotten any info, if he got a chance to send it out, just kind of follow up on what was happening with those items. And I don't think he responded to me until late Tuesday or early Wednesday, when I told him that I was getting pretty nervous about this whole thing. Rightfully so. I mean, it was already a little bit past when he told me he would send it out. He tried to give me like a little bit of a sob story, which was like, hey, like, I'm sorry something bad happened recently, but I will ship this out probably like Wednesday or Thursday. He then proceeded to ask me if it was normal that the funds were still being held on my end, and I said yes, because I had not paid through Facebook or anything for anything yet, really, so I wouldn't be surprised if Facebook was holding that money until everything was set in stone with my bank and Facebook. So he told me that sounds pretty acceptable, so we'll wait, until that goes through, and then I'll ship it out. It'll probably be like later that week, like Wednesday or Thursday, like I said. So Wednesday and Thursday come, still nothing. I make sure to try and keep messaging this guy, don't hear anything back. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, same thing. Monday, Tuesday, nothing. So at this point, I am pretty convinced that something weird is going on here. So I make a feedback post about him through these marketplaces and through these feedback pages. Unfortunately, those processes take a few days to process. Admins have to approve them and everything like that. So I didn't get that posted until really, really late that week. And at that point, money was already gone. I found out that what he actually did through Facebook was he didn't accept my marketplace and pay through Facebook Marketplace, which would have been like a buyer protected kind of thing. I guess through Facebook Marketplace, when you purchase something through them and they don't send the item with no tracking, you can report that, and Facebook will then refund you the money. What he actually did was he actually sent me a request through Messenger Pay, which I guess is different from Facebook Marketplace. I guess it's an individual one-on-one payment system through Messenger itself. That isn't protected. Come to find out later, I did try and appeal through Facebook, and they told me that unfortunately, since it was through Messenger Pay, that I was not covered, I was not qualified for any kind of refund. And when I paid through PayPal, it was through my bank rather than a credit card, so I wasn't protected in any other credit card kind of things. So I was kind of SOL, out of money. So my posting finally gets approved by these admin pages, and I gotten a bunch of feedback about how to possibly get refunds, but unfortunately I followed all these avenues. They didn't pan out, unfortunately. So I left them up for everybody to see, and hopefully this guy doesn't continue to scam anybody else anymore. So I'm out $250, no cards. Really kind of sucks, especially because I could have used that money towards vacation stuff or other cards that I wanted in general. So I'm pretty upset about that, but it's a hard lesson learned. When you're a newer collector like I am, it's pretty easy to get scammed. So that's why I wanted to make this video for all of you out there, if any of you are listening. Some of my personal tips about how to avoid this, or kind of what to look out for, or anything like that for the next time. If you ever come across anything like this through Facebook or through other private listings like Craigslist or anything like that, it might be helpful to you. And again, guys, if you've liked the story so far, I would greatly appreciate both a like on this video, possibly subscribe to my channel if you're into more Pokemon stuff. Again, I do openings. I try and do them every week. I've been a little lazy with that recently because of all the vacationing and stuff that's happening. But I really do try and put out at least one video a week, so I appreciate any kind of support, any kind of feedback as well. So thank you guys so much for sticking around this long into the video. Now let's get to the tips and red flags about what to avoid. So tip number one, obviously if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So this posting in particular was just enough of a good deal where I felt like this person was just trying to maybe offload these cards. But I still think it falls into that category if it was probably too good to be true, right? So $250 for a Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise, all near mint, probably should be going from somewhere in the range to $300 to $400. So $250 was definitely too good of a deal to be true. So if you see something like this on the marketplace or on Craigslist, automatic red flag. I would definitely keep in the back of your mind this person might not know what they're selling, but also at the same time be very, very cautious. Tip number two is don't fall for sob stories. I didn't really fall for any of those kinds of things that this particular customer was telling about, but I see it very commonly where a person will try and bring up family issues or money issues or something like that doesn't necessarily involve you, the seller, personally. And obviously we want to have empathy, right? We want to understand. We've all been in these situations where we are tight on money or something comes up. And so you as a buyer probably want to feel empathy towards this person, and you probably should to a certain extent. But just realize that is a red flag, especially if the money's already been like processed. So make sure that if anything like this were to come up, you try and protect yourself through payments of any way that you can. The next step would be the thing that I did, to look up and research the seller. So with Facebook in particular, it doesn't work so well on Craigslist because there's no like feedback threads or anything like that you can really access. But through Facebook and other means, you can actually find these groups that have feedback for a bunch of different sellers, whether it be Pokemon, whether it be baseball cards, whether it be any kind of collectibles. There's going to be a lot of these feedback groups and threads. So what you can do is you can join one, and then you can actually, in the search bar above, search for that person's name to try and find any kind of feedback from them, both as a buyer or a seller or anything like that. I did do that in this circumstance, which is why I felt so safe to do these other steps with him. Unfortunately, as you can tell, that doesn't seem to help 100% of the time. It is a good way just to kind of like get an idea of who the seller is and if you should even trust this person in the first place, but I wouldn't use it too much more beyond that. I would still try and protect yourself through other means and other ways, because the seller could end up being a scumbag like mine did, even if he has positive feedback. So the fourth and probably most important step is to pay through PayPal goods and services or any other protected way of payment. So PayPal goods and services, you are both protected as a buyer and a seller. If the buyer doesn't come through on their end and send you the money in time, they can be penalized for it. And if you're the buyer and the seller doesn't send you the items, or it's sent damaged or anything like that, you are protected and issued a refund then as well. There is a small fee usually with PayPal goods and services. I forget the exact percentage off the top of my head, but it's definitely worth paying that small fee so that way both parties are protected, especially in bigger purchases like this, where you can lose out on a good amount of money like I did if you are not protected by these services. So PayPal goods and services is the most obvious one, and that's the one that most people use in any kind of like buying or selling or trading kind of aspects. Never use PayPal friends and family. You are not protected under those circumstances. Even if the buyer has a lot of great feedback like mine did, I never trust PayPal friends and family. I, as a buyer, would gladly pay whatever percentage to be covered on my end in case anything like this were to ever happen again. And if the seller refuses PayPal goods and services, automatic red flag, right? Even if you tell them, hey, like I'll pay the service charge, yada yada yada, and they still don't want to do it, I would probably just honestly walk away from that transaction. It sounds like they're trying to do some sort of shady dealings like mine did, and I just do not recommend paying outside of those or any other protected services. I do have a bonus tip, which isn't talked about too much. If you guys have like a really good credit card, like an American Express or like any other kind of like higher end cards, they'll usually actually do credit you back if you can't actually find a way to refund through other means. Unfortunately, I didn't pay with one of my credit cards, which might have been able to reimburse me just through the credit card company itself. So if you want any extra protection and you have any of these credit cards available to you that offer like kind of like a buyback if you can't do like a refund or something like this goes wacky, and you can talk to their customer service, they might be able to issue you a refund themselves, which is nice. So I recommend doing that if you have one of those more premium credit cards or credit card companies. They actually do help a lot in these circumstances. So that's kind of all I have for this video. This is going to be encompassing the one scam that like I've been a part of. There are tons of other scams that are out there, unfortunately, in the community. Tons of fake cards out there, tons of just awful people that do not hold up their end of the bargain. So I really say to all the new collectors like myself, be vigilant, follow these tips as a guideline for any kind of transactions that you may come through. There are obviously exceptions to some of these red flags and everything that I put out there. However, it's up to you to do your research. Obviously, this $250 loss is on me. I'm not trying to throw a tantrum or anything like that. I fully understand that these red flags were apparent in my situation and I didn't see them or follow through on them. And that is my fault personally. And I totally 100% accept the responsibilities of that happening. However, it doesn't excuse these scumbags that are still trying to rip you off for your money. So while I am at fault, obviously the biggest person at fault here would be the scammer in this case. Hopefully I was able to post some of these screenshots of our conversation so you guys can see kind of the verbiage that this person used. Might be similar to someone who's trying to scam you in the future as well. So please just try and stay vigilant out there, take care, and until next time, bye nerds.